Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the spare bedroom. I'd like to talk about Q Basics Part 2. So the first part of Q Basics was basically talking about everything outside the cube of as far as who you're moving over, what size your cube is, etc. I'm going to delve a little more into the cards themselves. Sleeving. I personally double sleeve it, but first of all, the first time I played a cube, someone had penny sleeve their whole cube. But then I made a cube, and I originally did like the cheapest sleeves possible, and that was just for budget reasons. I had Ultra Pros, I think. I had Ultra Pro sleeves, and they were just really cheap and crappy, and they broke often. And I mean, you're not. It depends, like I guess, how much you're gonna be playing, but of course you're gonna be shuffling constantly with your cube because no, I mean, forgive me, we didn't actually use Dragon Shields, but I knew someone else that you did use Dragon Shields and didn't use doubles, so they just had a bunch of black ones laying around because they had them. And that was fine for them. They never had, again, there was a lot of breakage. So then when I invested into my full art lands, when Battle for Zendikar came out and there was full art lands very available at much cheaper prices, I had all my basic lands, full art lands, and I still do. But then I also invested in double sleeving, so I have the insert on all the sleeves. So I'll just show you. Um, I have the insert, which goes inside of this sleeve, which is a KMC Hypermat, and they're not the cheapest, but you can get them in bulk. So they're not. If you get them in bulk, I mean, you can get them 800 sleeves at a time. You can get these in bulk too, and I got them from the same website. I forgot what the website was, but you can search them up. It's not that hard. I would not buy them singly, 80 sleeves at a time for what the cost is, unless you just needed 80 sleeves. At that point, you can just get any other sleeves, but these work fine. I've had very little breakage, but that's just, and I like black because it's easier with the borders. It looks better. But that's just me. Again, like I said, I use Battle for Zendikar full art lands, and what I did when I did full art lands is I didn't just get full art lands. I got full art lands. Other than the full art lands that I just already had from pre-releases and whatnot, I only got one artwork for the full art lands, and I did that because of times when people look at your hand and I came across this early on when I played Magic. If someone looks at your hand, say someone plays Thoughtseize against you, they're gonna look at your hand and say, "Okay, he's got a forest with M14 artwork." But then you draw a forest with Theros artwork in your hand, for instance, and you play the Theros artwork forest. Then they know that you still have a forest in your hand, and they know what you drew. So if you have all your same artwork, it's easier for people not to know what you draw, and it's kind of something that most people don't think about, I don't think, and I think it's something to always keep in mind. There are other artworks in there just because I like some of the other artworks, but for the most part, for consistency and for balancing and for people not to get an advantage, I guess you could say, all the artworks are the same. I would love to have unhinged lands, or even the unstable lands that are coming out, the John Avon ones that have literally almost no border. What strategies are we going to put in the queue? I mean, obviously you're going to have all the 5 colors, you're going to have multicolors, and I like to have artifacts, and I even have colorless creatures. But moving forward, I mean, blue is, you want to have your archetypes, and you got to have an archetype for each color. You got to have creatures for each color. Regardless of what you're doing with the color, you got to have creatures. The game is not originally about creatures, but the bread and butter of the game is creatures. And my cube is all about value, but there's no planeswalkers in it because there's more critical thinking involved when there's no planeswalkers. And planeswalkers are super broken, and most of them are have the increased value exponentially. So a good planeswalker, for instance, it would be, I mean, we can talk about Jace, we can talk about Elspeth, but a good planeswalker that's easy to understand would be Ob Nixilis, the black one. That's black, 3 generic mana that came out in Battle for Zendikar. It comes down with, I think, 5 loyalty. Its +1 is lose a life, draw a card. What black loves to do is use the resource of life and draw a card and take a life. And then it has -3, destroy target creature. So, and then it has -8, and that -8 is not relevant for a couple turns. But the problem, the things that are relevant is that one, it destroys another card. So it comes down, it takes out another card. So it's one card that takes out another card and stays on the battlefield. And then every turn after that, or every turn if you don't have to kill a creature, every turn you pay a life and draw a card, and it increases loyalty, and then you get your emblem, and then emblem can win you the game because on the emblem it says target opponent gets an emblem with, I believe, whenever a player draws a card, you lose 2 life, and so I draw a card, you lose 2 life. You draw a card, you lose 2 life. I don't lose the 2 life. You lose the 2 life if I draw a card. Anytime I draw a card, not just beginning of my turn. And every time you draw a card, you lose 2 life. So it can just end you the game. So that's just a simple planeswalker that's not overpowered. That doesn't see modern play. That doesn't see legacy play. Not any modern or legacy play that I believe, but definitely I think sees Commander to play, and I definitely think it saw Standard play. I wasn't playing Standard at the time, but it definitely is very has a lot of value to it for what little it actually does. Because it's not that it doesn't do little; it's just that it's a high cost, and so they don't add critical thinking to the game. Looking at foils, I have some foils in my cube. I don't like chase foils. I don't go all foil. I don't think it takes away from the cube if you don't have a foil, because not all cards, of course, can have a foil, because foils that weren't in the beginning of Magic. But I think some cards it's cool to have foils, but don't have foil lands and non-foil lands because of inconsistency reasons of land artwork and whatnot. But I think like having foils is fine. I have some cards in my cube where I think Rakdos Return. I have a foil of it, and it's only because I looked at the price value of the foil and the non-foil. The non-foil is like 75 cents. The foil is like $2, and it's like, okay, I can make it look a little cool in my cube and have a $2 card that just looks a little shinier. The best things you can always guarantee about Magic is that bread and butter Magic is aggro, control, aggro and its own little thing, control and its own little thing, and then synergy, mid-range combo and its own little thing. I mean, mid-range is its own thing. Synergy is always going to be a thing, and that could be with control, that could be with aggro technically. So, I mean, you're always going to have synergies of the same thing. Synergies of like silly stuff, like Kalida's Trader of Death or Get or whatever it's called. It's a 3/4 for 4 mana for 2 generic mana, 2 black, and it's like whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, you get a 2/2 black zombie, and their creature gets exiled, and the creature itself that you have is a 3/4 with lifelink, and it has 2 generic mana, black, sacrifice a zombie or vampire, put 2/1/1 counters on your dude, so it becomes bigger and helps itself not die to burn spells or other creatures, and has combat tricks in that way, and has sack outlets for other triggers, and it doesn't die to Double because it's black. So, and it's also a vampire, just to say, and I'm not sure if you guys have vampire things out there, but it's a good card, and it's very, and your creatures don't get exiled, just theirs when they die. So it's good, and it's not my cube, but I'm looking for it. And I think one of the main things to talk about, everyone, is that I think everyone gets to a point with their cube that maybe in the beginning, for some people, maybe in the beginning, if you've been playing Magic a very long time, maybe you already have these cards, but I have Proxies of Power 9, and I also have Proxies of Dual Lands. The proxies are very legible, and you can read them, and they have the artwork. They're a little faded. They're mainly they have the consistency of a real Magic card, so I'm sure that they were a real Magic card or something like that. I'm not really sure. I'm not using them to take them to tournaments in any way. I've never taken them to a tournament in any game setting or anything like that. Swear. But anyways, moving on. Power 9 is something that I think it was never my first intention to put Power 9 in the cube, and I think you have to be very careful when you do put Power 9. Power 9, the the 5 Moxens, one for each color. Then you have the Black Lotus, so then that's 6. Then you have Time Walk, Time Twister, and Ancestral Recall. So it kind of sways a little bit to blue because one, first of all, blue, you're going to have Tinker. If you're going to have any kind of good cube, you're going to have Tinker. So it kind of sways to blue because of Tinker, and it sways to blue because of the other 3 cards. But 3 cards are just 1 blue, not 2 blue, not 3 blue, and their mana cost just 1 blue. So that being said, I think it's not super broken. I think anyone can play blue, anyone can splash blue, anyone can play. I would play one. I would splash blue in a 2-color deck just to have a Time Walk going. I would be okay with that. You have to be careful when you put Power 9 into a cube. You have to value cards differently. You have to remember that, okay, so if you have a sneak attack, that sneak attack could happen on turn 1. I suggest proxies every time, though. It doesn't matter if you double sleeve. I would never risk a $20,000 card or a $10,000 card, and if you have just money picking off the money tree over here, where you're just like, oh yeah, I'll just take more money off the money tree because I got 10 Black Lotuses back there. I don't care. I mean, yeah, use the revised ones for sure. And don't use anything else. I would never use an alpha Black Lotus or an alpha any of those Moxes. I think that's ridiculous. We're talking about all the cards, the colors separately, and what white means to my cube and what white means to me and what I'm trying to show. So have a good night, everyone. Please like, subscribe, and share.